All right, test your mic.
Mic check 1 2 1 2.
All right,
Mic
you
check.
good?
We good?
Yep.
Cool, cool.
All right, shalom, shalom again. Welcome back. For those that were tuning in earlier, this is the follow-up class, closing Shabbat class for Messengers of the Covenant. Uh, for those that's joining in, as this time continues on, come on in, wipe your feet, get accustomed to the atmosphere. We're going to be covering the 10 lost tribes of Israel, man, the indigenous tribes, located throughout the four corners of the earth, but mainly the populace of North, South, Central America, the Caribbean islands, even Canada. You know, we're going to cover those aspects, man, and really get some source history regarding that, scripturally based understanding for sure, and we'll go from there. I know everybody probably hung over from the previous DSTM, man. We just did 2.5+ hours. So I know everybody like, oh, give me a break. Let me catch my breath. It's no catching your breath, man. Yahweh Shai gives us the Most High said He's the breath of life, man. We got to inhale from His spirit and continue building. All right. So I know it's only a couple of y'all in here. Shalom to Ashar, Shalom to Rashab, Shalom to you, Elder. Shabbat Shalom to anybody else that's coming on in later. But nonetheless, man, we got to get this information out there to circulate as it circulates. But for time's sake and because of the vast amount of information that I got, we got to get started right away. I've already conceded. I'm not going to be able to cover everything. Not going to be able to cover everything today. So, if the consensus is a part two request, I'll do so. All you got to do is, either email me or respond back at the next time I do it. Don't shoot the messenger, and I'll double back and finish this one up. And I've got a whole nother presentation just on the five civilized tribes of of America, as they like to call them, the five civilized tribes. Esau is going to be the one that's going to dictate who's civilized and who's not, because otherwise, he looks at our people as all being savage. You know what I'm saying? So, if that's the case, um, we'll have to go there as well. But just wanted to kind of delve into the majority of the 10 tribes, where they're at now, in light of, this folly day that just passed, Thanksgiving, and the embarrassment, of our people going out there eating and toasting and drinking to the death and the dismemberment of our people and the genocide of our people, man, is a shame. Even the fact that, our people have twisted it and turned it into something good, or what they consider good, right? Uh, I go to Isaiah 5. I believe I'm on Isaiah 5 and 20.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 5, verse 20. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil.
So,
That
that's the problem with our people, is you're always trying to turn something negative into a positive, right? So if we're talking about the genocide and the destruction of a people, talking about rape, murder, maiming of women, killing of babies, killing of the innocents, blood spread throughout this land, broken peace treaties and promises. Brother Aladar did a lesson on that a couple of weeks ago. The Most High is declared and said, if this thing is evil, if we're seeing evil being done to our people, you don't celebrate that. You don't line up and sit at a table and gorge and eat and watching football and getting drunk and fighting. Because, most of the damn, Negro and Hispanic gatherings, you Hispanics is out there rolling up tamales. You got your own little tradition. Yeah, I know about that. Rolling up tamales for Thanksgiving is part of their quote unquote tradition. Niggas want to, roast up ham. And there was a sister, man. This is how ignorant our people are, man. This is how ignorant our people are. There's a sister, Glorilla, popular rapper now, dumb as a box of rocks. She said that she just found out that ham is pork. And now she doesn't know what she's going to eat for Thanksgiving. No word of a lie. Okay, y'all think I'm lying. Hold on. No word of a lie, man. Hold on. Let me see if I can find her little quote, man. Glorilla. And this is just to go off subject, man. I'm sorry, but I had to go there because this is what happens, man. Our people are calling good evil and evil good. When we sit out there and we make the let it be known that the things that our people are into, the things that our people are engaged in, is evil and wicked. They don't even know. Look at it. Here she go right here. This is the same woman talking about uh twerking at the red lights, whatever whatever the name, FNF, which means FUC, the rest. F nigga free, right? And she's blowing up, one of the more popular rappers now in today. And look at this. Glorilla surprised to find out ham is actually pork. What the F am I if this how she talk? What the F I'ma eat for Thanksgiving now? I mean, why not just say, hey boss, what's I'ma eat you now? I mean, good lord. But she didn't even know ham was pork, man. And now she's still trying to figure out what she's going to eat for Thanksgiving. This is the ignorance of our people, man. This is because they have no idea regarding the legacy and the history that our people come from, and really understanding and knowing the importance of not following along with these heathenistic customs. Finish that up.
come that put darkness for light and light for darkness.
That
That
put
put bitter
darkness for light, put darkness for light and light for darkness. So here they are trying to transform this day into saying, "Oh no, we're not talking about we know what happened to the Indians, yeah, but that wasn't our people, you know. But still, it was a sad thing to happen to them. But we're not celebrating that. We're just giving thanks. We're giving thanks for life, for family. We're giving thanks for our jobs. We're giving thanks for our credit cards. We're giving thanks for this Hennessy. We're giving thanks for this turkey. You know, Popeyes just had a Cajun turkey, some new Cajun fried turkey or something that they're doing. This things were sold out because they want to go and celebrate the new Popeyes gig that got everybody. At first it was the chicken sandwiches. Now they got the damn turkeys, and everybody's running over there eating up the turkeys. So the Lord said, "Woe unto them that call good evil and evil good." When you try to flip something that's evil and try to make it good, the Lord said, "Destruction is coming unto you." So today's presentation is to help our people acknowledge and understand that's our people that we're talking about, right? You're talking about the death and the destruction of your brothers and your sisters, man. They got killed and and murdered here in this land, and then it gets turned into a celebratory thing where you're supposed to be eating and being glorifying into thanking the Most High for that. Are you have you lost your mind? Okay, so let's get to a few scriptures, and then we got a plethora of information, sources, and all of that. Like I said, I've already conceded. I'm not going to finish this whole thing. I got damn near 80 slides, and I'm not even done yet. I just stopped there because I was like, "You're not going to get through all of this. Why continue on?" But nonetheless, like I said, I can do a part two upon request. We'll do that. And like I said, I got a whole nother presentation just on the five civilized tribes, talking about the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, the Seminole, and I think the Muskogee was the other ones. But nonetheless, that's a whole nother separate thing to do. But nonetheless, let's get to some scriptures. All right. First of all, walk with me on this one, y'all. Y'all gonna see where I'm going with it. Exodus chapter 1. Exodus 1 and start at verse 1. All praises, sister.
The book of Exodus, chapter 1, verse 1.
Right.
Now these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt. Every man and his household came with Jacob: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah; Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin; Dan and Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, for Joseph was in Egypt already.
So Joseph, right? Now, who was Joseph the forefather of? Joseph was the forefather of what is known as the kingdom of Ephraim. Ephraim was the head tribe of the northern kingdom, right? Ephraim and Manasseh. He had two sons. So many a times the northern kingdom is representative of Ephraim. So now it said that Joseph was already in Egypt, and the rest of the tribes were to go into Egypt and to join up with them. So where am I going with this? Let's go to Exodus 20. Exodus 20. Now follow me in the spirit now. Exodus 20. And let's read verse 2.
The book of Exodus, chapter 20, verse 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage,
Out of the what?
out of the house of bondage.
So the Lord said that Egypt will be representative of our bondage, right? So if Joseph and Ephraim and the northern leadership would already be into Egypt slash bondage, then the other tribes would join them into bondage, into a Egypt or a bondage. Spiritually, we see how this plays out again. Revelation 11 and 8. Let's go there. So we're looking at this through the spiritual lens of understanding about the migration of the 10 tribes and the southern kingdom. Collectively, all 12 tribes will find themselves in Egypt or in bondage together, just like in the days of old. And if we notice too, the transitionary period of the transatlantic slave trade and the 10 tribes is already here in Egypt. spiritual Egypt, already going through bondage. And guess who joined them? The rest of the tribes coming from West Africa: Benjamin, Levi, Judah, right? As they come on over and join the fray. Very similar to the times of old. That's why we look at it from the spirit first. Revelation 11 and 8.
The book of Revelation, chapter 11, verse 8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt.
So the
Where,
Lord said that the dead bodies of the saints, or the dead bodies of the the children of Israel, were going to be lying in the street of the great city. Now we've covered this before, but go to Revelation 14. Hold of Revelation 11, Revelation 14. Let's define who that great city is. 14 verse 8.
book of Revelation, chapter 14, verse 8. And there followed another angel, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication.
What did it call Babylon?
Babylon the Great is fallen, that great city,
Now what?
that great city.
And what did it just get through calling uh the place in Revelation 11 and 8? Let's go back.
Verse 8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which
Of the
spiritually,
great city. So again, it's talking about spiritual Babylon, this place that is inhabited not only the spirit of Babylon, not only the spirit of Egypt, not only the spirit of Sodom. This place, America, has inhabited all these spirits, man. This place is possessed. The great city Babylon, a city of confusion, the place where all nations are coming to drink the wine of the fornication, that all partake in the sins of this place. America is that Babylon, that great city, right? Now it said the dead bodies are going to lie in the streets of that great city. So we were going to find in this place of Babylon, the dead bodies of the saints will be laying in this city. So where are we going to find a conglomerate of death of the Lord's people at? We'll find out. Okay. That's another clue that we're going to have to uncover regarding the 10 tribes and the southern kingdom, right? Go ahead. Read that one more time.
God, and their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where
So
also our
spiritually, Salaki, spiritually, this is how we're looking at through the lens. That's why we went to Exodus 1 first, because in the spirit, we got to see that there was going to be a migration of the tribes. They were separated into two, right? Yeah, the majority of the tribe that was coming with Jacob to meet up with Joseph, who was already in Egypt. Now we're looking at it in the reverse, still in the spirit, though. 10 tribes is already here in Egypt, and the southern kingdom now had to come over and join into bondage again, right? So this is all prophetic. Going into a place known as Babylon, Egypt, our place of bondage, where the death of our people is going to be in the in terms of massacres. Our people is going to be found victimized in that fashion, right? And a place of Sodom, where all manner of abomination, homosexuality, transformerism, everything else is going to be going down here. All manner of vile acts is going to be able to be committed here and legalized. We just got to seeing earlier how even though it's an Italian label, but it's basically glorified here in America through entertainers, models, and actresses and rappers and everything else. Balenciaga advertising BDSM, bondage and sadomasochist outfits for children. Only in America, as Don King would say. I love that. Was that it?
I think there was a little bit left,
Go ahead.
which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified.
Where also our Lord was crucified. So how do we say Yahweh Shai was crucified? Through religion, false doctrine, false prophecies, false depictions. That's crucifying. That's putting our Savior into an open shame and another death because we got all these lies that's being compounded upon him. All right, let's quickly move to Jeremiah 50:33. Jeremiah 50 and verse 33. So we're doing detective work. We're in the spirit and physically, we're looking and seeing where and how and what happened with the 10 tribes. What happened with the children of Israel. We know, but we maybe some of us don't know. We're gonna go there though. We're gonna go there. Jeremiah 15:33. Maybe some may not be aware about the parting and the splitting of the kingdom after Solomon's sin, but we're gonna go there. But go ahead.
Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 33. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together.
So now we're finding another prophecy in which the children of Israel and the children of Judah were being prophesied to be oppressed together. We would have to serve a bondage of oppression together. When did that ever happen? That's the question. Because if this is a prophecy, then we know that the 10 tribes went into bondage outside of us being in Egypt together, the original Egypt. When else were we oppressed together? We ain't talking about the times of Judges because this post Jeremiah. This is after the Judges. This is after the Exodus. This is after this. Jeremiah is prophesying during the Babylonian captivity. He said that Israel and Judah will be oppressed together again in the future. Right. So the question is when did that happen? If the 10 tribes went into captivity, um, under Shalmaneser, and then uh, the southern kingdom went into captivity under Babylon. The separation was already pronounced after King Solomon's sin. So, at what point in time did they ever come back together and serve bondage together? Yeah, you guessed it. Modern Egypt, modern day Egypt, right now. That's the prophecy in which that happened. Okay, we're going to get to some of the other things later, but from there, let's go to Leviticus 26. Leviticus 26 and read 44 through 46.
You said verse 44 through
Yeah,
46?
Leviticus 26, verse 44 through 46.
Okay. Leviticus chapter 26, verse 44. And yet for all that, when they be in the land of their enemies, I will not cast them away, neither will I abhor them, to destroy them utterly, and to break my covenant with them. For I am the Lord their God. But I
Go,
will for oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
But I will for their sakes remember the
Actually,
covenant.
Shalaki. Jump up, and let's read. Start at verse 40.
Verse 40. If they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers with their trespass which they trespass against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me, and that I also have walked contrary unto them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies, if then their uncircumcised hearts be humbled, and they then accept of the punishment of their iniquity, then will I remember my covenant with Jacob, and also my covenant with Isaac, and
So we're
also
seeing here the mercy of the Most High. So he's acknowledging, because this is one of the redemptive things that the Most High pronounced. He said that even though he'll put us in bondage, he'll put us into captivity, he'll always remember the covenant that he blessed upon our forefathers, that he would redeem us even through our bondage and our captivity. So although we will find ourselves in captivity again together, because collectively all 12 tribes committed sin and iniquity, the Most High said that he was going to remember his covenant, which he swore upon our forefathers, and he was going to bring us back into glory again. But finish that up to verse 46.
uh, let me see. All right, here we go. And also my covenant with Abraham will I remember, and I will remember the land. The land also shall be left of them, and shall enjoy her Sabbaths, while she lieth desolate without them. And they shall accept of the punishment of their iniquity, even because they despised my judgments, and because their soul abhorred my statutes. And yet for all that, when they be in the land of their enemies, I will not cast them away, neither will I abhor them, to destroy them utterly, and to break my covenant with them. for I am the Lord their God. But I will for their sakes remember the covenant of their ancestors, whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt in the sight of the heathen, that I might be their God. I am the Lord. These are the statutes and judgments and laws which the Lord made between him and the children of Israel in Mount Sinai by the hand of Moses.
So the Most High said that even though everything that we did, he said that for yet for all that, when they be in the land of their enemies, he will not cast them away, neither will he abhor us to destroy us utterly and to break his covenant with them, for he's the Lord our power. So we see and understand that this is why the Most High is going to make good on his promise on regathering all 12 tribes back together again, and that we're going to be redeemed because the Most High does not break his word in regards to the covenant and the promises that he made unto our people, right? So now let's jump over to Hosea, the fifth chapter. We're going to read 3 through 6.
The book of Hosea, chapter 5, verse 3. I know Ephraim, and Israel is not hid from me. For now, O Ephraim, thou committest whoredom, and Israel is defiled. They will not frame their doings to turn unto their God, for the spirit of whoredom is in the midst of them.
So
And
remember, when we're talking about Ephraim, we're talking about the northern kingdom. Okay. So when it said that Ephraim has committed whoredoms, he's talking about the northern kingdom has committed whoredoms and abominations that the Most High is going to have to judge. And this is what ended up being the downfall of the 10 tribes. You know, the mystery is always who's the 10 tribes? What happened to the 10 tribes? The 10 tribes was banished because of their iniquity. They were booted out of the land. They were put into bondage and in captivity because of their iniquity, and they had particular iniquities that they were involving themselves in. Right? Let me put that one in the chat because I didn't update that. So Hosea 5 and 3, reading down to verse 6. Okay. So reading that saying, I know Ephraim and Israel is not hid from me, for now, O Ephraim, thou committest whoredom, and Israel is defiled. So remember, Ephraim is the kingdom, or is the head of the northern kingdom. So when it's speaking about Ephraim, it's talking about Ephraim being the head, Israel being the northern kingdom. But the Most High said the 10 tribes are not hid from him. So what's that let us know? That they're not lost. The Most High knows where they're at. He's giving us information to understand and know where they're at. Now there may be some speculatory or some things where people may disagree in regards to who or the entire populace. You know, you've got some the Negro onlys who say, "Oh, the 10 tribes is still in Africa." Okay, that's cool, but even over there, they only acknowledge like three of the tribes. I think Gad, Simeon, and uh, maybe Manasseh. I can't recall. But in regards to, well, where's Naphtali? Where's Issachar? Where's Zebulon? Where's Reuben? You know what I'm saying? So there's still other tribes that's out there, and at the same time, I wouldn't have so much of a big fuss about that. That's cool too, because even during the time of Second Chronicles 30, when Hezekiah had the Passover, some of the 10 tribes came down to Judah and kept and started keeping the law. So all of the 10 tribes it wasn't a clean separation. You still had 10 tribes that was intermingled in with the southern. I think Manasseh, Zebulon, Asher uh, went down to the southern kingdom and committed and stayed and started keeping the laws with Judah. So that's why even with the 12 tribe chart, things could be questionable because of the migrations and the places in which the tribes lived. I think in Luke the second chapter tell you that a woman of Asher was present there during the time of Yahushua. So, you know, trying to pinpoint and say because you come from here or a landmass or whatever that you're that tribe, that's hard. That's hard to do. It's hard to do. And trust me, we was teaching the 12 tribe chart for like 15 years, damn near 20 years teaching, the chart. But the truth is the truth. And retrospectively looking at things, everything ain't always clear cut. So It's better to be objective and say, well, these other things and possibilities, and let's leave it at that, and let the information just be out there. What tribe you? Most High said, man, you'll know in the end. When them 12 gates is there, Most High willing, all of us is there. You're gonna find out which gates you're gonna go through. Lord willing, we had that opportunity. But even knowing your tribe doesn't really matter at this point, man. Israel knew who they were, knew what tribe they was, and was still wicked as hell and went into bondage in captivity. So I know it's a caveat of understanding, and people, clamor to want to know what tribe they're from. But at the same time, as they say in the old G.I. Joe cartoon, knowing is half the battle. That's one thing. What you do with it is a whole nother. Not to get off on a tangent. Let me get back to it. Read that again. Hosea 5. Read 3 down to 6 again.
Verse 3. I know Ephraim, and Israel is not hid from me. For now, O Ephraim, thou committest whoredom, and Israel is defiled.
So Israel is defiled, and the Most High had to judge Israel because of their iniquities. Okay, the northern kingdom. And he said, but it's not hid from them. The Most High sees their iniquity, and the Most High knows who the 10 tribes are. Read on.
They will not frame their doings to turn unto their God, for the spirit of whoredoms is in the midst of them, and they have not known the Lord.
And they refuse to repent and follow after the ways of the Lord. Read.
And the pride of Israel doth testify to his face. Therefore shall Israel and Ephraim fall in their iniquity, Judah also shall fall with them.
Now you see that the Most High wasn't just harping on and coming down on Ephraim. He said, hey, don't trip. Judah's gonna fall with you too. So for the pride, I'm Judah, I'm Judah. Yeah, Lord said, man, Judah's wicked as hell too. Everybody got thrown in the pot and got washed. So look, the Most High said, Ephraim, you're gonna fall in your iniquity, and guess what? Judah's also gonna fall with you. Thus, we just got the reading Jeremiah 50:33. Read.
They shall go with their flocks and with their herds to seek the Lord, but they shall not find him. He hath withdrawn himself from them.
Right. So they were going to try to find the Most High. Remember, we'll get to that part in 2nd Ezra 13. It said that they're going to go to a land where never mankind dwelled, and there they're going to try to keep the commandments which they never kept in their own land. Well, clearly they didn't do that, right? Let me close this shade. The sun is kind of beaming in here. Give me 1 second, y'all. Salaki. All right, that's a little better. All right, Salaki. So let's get on back over here. All right, let's try to get through this. Let's go to Hosea. Stay in Hosea. We're going to go to chapter 9. We're going to read 3 through 3, and then we're going to drop down and read verse 13. Hosea 9. We're going to read the 3rd verse. Then we're going to drop down to 13.
Hosea chapter 9 verse 3. They shall not dwell in the Lord's land, but Ephraim shall return to Egypt, and they shall eat unclean things in Assyria.
Now you see what ended up happening. The northern kingdom, the Most High said, is not going to dwell in the land any longer. They're going to get booted out, but they're going into bondage. They're going into Egypt, just like we got the reading. And it said, and they're going to eat unclean meats in Assyria. So remember, even if y'all seen earlier, um, I referenced it earlier in Tobit, 1st chapter. Matter of fact, I'll share it real quick with y'all. You can write it down, but we just covered this in DSTM earlier. You all right over there?
Yeah, my fault. I'm having. Guess give me a second. Let me fix this right quick.
Go ahead. I'll read this while you're doing what you got to do. Now we see here, uh, Hosea 1, 10 and 11. This is the Assyrian captivity. And when we were carried away captives to Nineveh, all my brethren and those that were of my kindred did eat the bread of the Gentiles, but I kept myself from eating. Why? Because I remembered the Most High with all my heart. So this is where we see when the Most High made that declaration in Hosea, the ninth chapter, in the third verse, when he said, they shall not dwell in the Lord's land, but Ephraim shall return to Egypt. So that's one particular aspect of bondage that our people was going to go into. Then he also said that they shall eat unclean things in Assyria, which we just got through reading in Tobit. Okay. So our people ended up following after heathenistic customs and ways in Assyria, which then ultimately led to us getting banished from the land and then went into Egypt, went into another bondage. Drop down, read verse 13.
Verse 13. Ephraim, as I saw Tyrus, is planted in in a pleasant place, but Ephraim shall bring forth his children to the murderer.
So we're seeing here that the Northern Kingdom has said that for all the glory that our people found over here in America, we're going to see that they were calling this the pleasant land. And when Christopher Columbus and all the rest of the conquistadors came over here, man, their eyes was bugged out at the glory that they seen of the land over here, right? So it said they were getting planted in a pleasant place. They were calling this place paradise, the island of Puerto Rico, South and Central America, from the gold and all of the precious jewels and things that they were finding, right? So this is what they ended up seeing. But it said, guess what? They were going to give their children into unto murderers. So what ended up happening? They ended up getting destroyed by the conquistadors, by the Spaniards, by the French, by the Portuguese, by the English. All got destroyed. Okay, stay in Hosea. Go to the 8th chapter. Read 11.
Hosea chapter 8, verse 11. Because Ephraim hath made many altars to sin, altars shall be unto him to sin.
Right. So we see that even they continued on with idol worship. They started creating and following after the heathenistic gods. They ended up even doing the same things over here when they came into bondage and captivity. When they made it over here, which continued on their captivity and their uh punishments from the Lord. So the Lord said that because Ephraim have made many altars to sin, altars shall be unto him to sin. So these same causes that they were thinking they were doing in righteousness, or they were doing it to follow after their own traditions, still thinking they found a way to worship the Most High, ended up being the same cause for them to sin and get caught up, right? Romans 10 and 2. Let's read that.
The book of Romans chapter 10, verse 2. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge.
See that? So the Most High said he bears us record that the children of Israel have a zeal for the Most High. Our people know how to worship, know how to pray, know how to figure out that there's a higher power, a great spirit, all of the above, right? But when it comes down to the knowledge of how to serve him, that's where the problems lie. That's where our people fall off. That's why our people going out here celebrating Thanksgiving and talking about this is about giving thanks to God. For no, it's not. You created and utilize this day off from your captivity to be gluttonous and to follow after traditions that are not biblical, that historically line up with genocide and the destruction and the murdering of a people. And you can't have a parade and you can't run around here and pop fireworks and drink liquor and act a damn fool and say, no, this is great. We're having a good time. We're thanking God for everything. Don't forget to thank him for all the blood that was spilled too while you're at it. Don't forget about the dead babies and the pregnant mothers. Don't forget about the men that were maimed and killed and chopped in half, and wild rabid dogs eating and feeding on our people. Hey, now don't forget about that. Don't forget about the disease and the biological warfare that was unleashed on our people. Don't forget about that. Don't forget about the 500 peace treaties that were broken. Don't forget about them stealing and robbing lands. while you're toasting and you're eating, while Glorilla, you trying to figure out what you're going to eat in replacement of your ham. I mean, come on. And the cold part is she was doing that because she was saying that she hadn't, going back to Glorilla, the dumb broad, she hadn't been eating pork for like 3 months. Now, how would she know? She didn't even know ham was pork, man. The broad was probably eating pork every day, thinking she was keeping a kosher diet. How do you declare that you're not going to eat something, but you don't do research to find out what exactly is in contain? What's in these things that you don't eat? How can you say you're not eating pork and next thing you know, you find out, I just found out ham is pork. What am I going to eat for Thanksgiving? But all right, let me get off of that, man. Just the ignorance of our people is unreal. Psalms 106. Let's go there. We're gonna zoom through some of these. We're gonna zoom through these precepts, and we're gonna get to some of the biblical references. I mean the historical and archaeological references. All right. Psalms 106, 33 down to 48. Let's go.
Psalm chapter 106, verse 33. Because they provoked his spirit, so that he spake unadvisedly with his lips. They did not destroy the nations, concerning whom the Lord commanded them, but were mightied among the heathen, and learned their works.
So
And
you
they
see that the Lord said that this is the problem with our people. We didn't destroy our enemies, and we ended up learning the works of the heathen. We start following after their customs and their ways, learning after their practices, their sacrifices, their altars, their gods. Right? Read on.
and they served their idols, which were a snare unto them. Yea, they sacrificed their sons and their daughters unto devils, and shed innocent blood, even the blood of their sons and
Didn't we
of their
just get
daughters.
the reading, Salaki? Didn't we just get the reading that even though they're in the pleasant land, they would give their children over to murderers? So here they are saying that they sacrifice their sons and daughters, right? Not only through ritualistic worship, but also had to give our children over to murderers, the Spaniards, where they were raped, where they were sold. In Joel, it tells you that they were sold a boy for a harlot and a girl for a bottle of wine. These are all bonded, these are all aspects of the captivity that our people had to go through. Why? Because they ended up following after the ways of the heathen, man. Didn't destroy our enemies and ended up coveting and following after their ways. Continue on. All right, go ahead and continue.
Salakia was muted. Even the blood of their sons and of their daughters, whom they sacrificed unto idols of Canaan, and the land was polluted with blood. Thus were they defiled with their own works, and went a whoring with their own inventions. Therefore was the wrath of the Lord kindled against his people, insomuch that he abhorred his own inheritance, and he gave them into the land of the heathen, and they that hated them ruled over them. Their enemies also oppressed them, and they were brought into subjection under their hand. Many times did he deliver them, but they provoked him with their counsel, and were brought low for their iniquity. Nevertheless, he regarded their afflictions when he heard their cry, and he remembered for them his covenant, and repented according to the multitude of his mercies. He made them also to be pitied of all those that carried them captives. Save us, O Lord our God, and gather us from among the heathen, to give thanks unto the holy name, and to triumph in thy praise.
So there we go. So the Most High said, so the whole legacy of what happened with our people, man. In particular, all 12 tribes, but there's 10 tribes that really had this down pat as far as idol worshiping, sacrificing their sons and their daughters, going after their own inventions, going after their own customs and their ways. They repel against the Bible now. I get it because of everything that they witnessed regarding uh, the conquistadors and dealing with forced indoctrination of following after Catholicism, bowing down to gods and Caesar Borgia and stuff like that they never heard of, never was accustomed to, having this forced on them. Traditionally, now oral history says anything that has to do with that book, stay away from it. Our foremothers and forefathers were killed for following that book. That's why they are so rejective of the book now. But they've got to understand and know this book is where your life is. This is where and why you went through everything that you're going through. So even when it says that the Most High said He gave them into the hands of the heathen and they ruled over us, our enemies is going to oppress us. It said many times in verse 43, many times that He delivered them, but they provoked Him with their counsel and were brought low for their iniquity. So there was plenty of times we're going to see victories that the indigenous tribes, Native American tribes and the Maroons and the Boricuas and all of them had victories over the so-called white man, successful revolts in the whole nine. But what? Never repented, never fully came into the knowledge of following after the righteous ways of the Lord and not going back. So the Lord said, many times I spared them, many times I delivered them, but what they do? They still went back and continued on, provoking the Most High with our counsels, doing what we wanted to do, taking advantage of the mercy of the Lord. You get away with something and you go right back doing the same thing again. That's the legacy of Israel. Jump over to Joshua 16 and 10 now. Book of Joshua 16 and the 10th verse.
The book of Joshua, chapter 16, verse 10. And they drave not out the Canaanites that dwelt in Gezer, but the Canaanites dwell among the Ephraimites unto this day, and serve under tribute.
You see what happened? They ended up allowing the Canaanites to live, intermingling with them, allowing them to introduce their customs and their ways. And guess what? The Canaanites dwelt among the Ephraimites unto this day and serve under tribute. So they ended up learning these heathenistic customs because they allowed the Canaanites to be amongst them. That's why we read what we read in Psalms 106, because our people went ahead and followed after these ways and then ended up finding themselves getting put in captivity and destroyed for their folly. Stay in Joshua, go to 17, let's read verse 12. I'm just laying the groundwork of what happened with the 10 tribes and why the necessary bondage and the captivity befell them and where they ended up going through the legacy of curses. 17, read verse 12.
Verse 12. Yet the children of Manasseh could not drive out the inhabitants of those cities, but the Canaanites would dwell in that land. Yet it came to pass, when the children of Israel were waxen strong, that they put the Canaanites to tribute, but they did not utterly drive them out.
You see what happened? So even though the Most High delivered them, what they do? They ended up having crafty counsel with themselves and said, "Well, let the Canaanites stick around and we'll just tax them, make them pay tribute to us, man, but and let them continue on with their practices and their heathenistic customs and all of that. Matter of fact, we're going to partake in some of that," and ended up getting themselves shot in the butt for doing that. Jeremiah 10 and 2. Our people just can't do one thing and leave it alone. Jeremiah, actually read 1 and 2. We just can't follow instructions to the T, to the dot of the I, and leave it alone. We want to add on. We want to do some extras. We want to, do things our way. Look at King Saul. He was supposed to get rid of the Amalekites. He left the king alive, took their victuals and everything else, and ended up getting himself dethroned to the point to where Samuel had to come up and hack that Amalekite to pieces because he didn't follow along what the Lord said to do. We'll always be trying to rationalize in our own mind. Oh, the Lord won't mind if I do this. He understands my heart. I'm trying to do the right thing. And the Most High said, man, do what I said to do, and that's it. Look at the men that got put to death for trying to save the altar from falling during the time of David. The altar was leaning over about to fall on the ground, man. Some men went and tried to grab and catch it. The Most High smote them. Why? Because only the high priest was supposed to be able to touch and handle that. The Most High said, I don't give a damn if it falls on the ground. It is what it is, but you don't touch it. That's how serious the Lord is. If he says this is what it is, this is what it is. This is why our people are so ignorant. Lord's going to put me to death for eating pork? Yes. If I don't wear them things on my garments, I ain't going to go to heaven. Yeah. He said to do it, do it. That's it. We're the ones trying to rationalize and figure out and try to. No, I don't go too far with the Lord. Jeremiah 10, 1 and 2.
Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 1. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel.
Oh, house of who?
O house of Israel.
So this for our people to learn and understand. Go ahead.
Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them.
You see that? So the Most High made it clear that the heathen were dismayed at the signs of heaven. The heathen were enthralled with the astrological signs. The heathen were enthralled with looking and gazing at and worshiping of the sun and worshiping of the moon. The Most High said, "You don't do like them." He gave us a systematic ways of laws, statutes, and commandments, moral laws, civil laws, dietary laws, ceremonial laws, sacrificial laws, and how we're supposed to conduct and carry ourselves. We didn't have to go to the heathen and try to figure out any extra, extra understandings on things that they think that the Most High might be holding out on. But that's what our people ended up doing. Oh, we want to find out some more. The Lord said, "Children of Israel, don't learn after the ways of the heathen." Why is that important? Go to 1 Kings 11. 1 Kings 11, and this is what I was talking about earlier in regards to the collapse of the kingdom. 1 Kings 11, read 1 and verse 3.
1 Kings chapter 11, verse 1. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites.
You see that Solomon couldn't get enough of the heathen. You know, he said he loved many strange women. He didn't say he loved his own women. He loved his own people. He loved his own tribeswomen. That much. It was declared. It was understood, man. Solomon got a thing for them heathen women, man. Running them down. He said, "Man, many strange women." Go ahead.
Of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, Ye shall not go in to them, neither shall they come in unto you, for surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon clave unto these in love. And he
So
had
he loved these heathen women, right? Go ahead.
and he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart.
Go ahead.
For it came to pass, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was the heart of David his father. For Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites.
So look at it. He started endorsing feminism. He started following, letting these heathenistic gods, female deities rule over him and rule over the kingdom. Solomon was all the way off, all the way off. Right? Read down to verse 7.
Con. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord, as did David his father. Then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon.
Right. So these are, but just read verse 8.
Verse 8. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense and sacrifice unto their gods.
So he erected abominable temples. He allowed them to, carry on with their sacrifices and the burning of incense to their gods. He was partaking in them in the worshiping of these other gods. So the Most High had to punish Solomon for doing what he did. Drop down, read verse 29,
Verse 29.
and read down to verse 35.
God. And it came to pass at that time, when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem, that the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite found him in the way, and he had clad himself with a new garment, and they too were alone in the field. And Ahijah caught the new garment that was on him, and rent it in 12 pieces. And he said to Jeroboam, Take thee 10 pieces, for thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, Behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee. But he shall have one tribe for my servant David's sake, and for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, because that they have forsaken me, and have worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways, to do that which is right in mine eyes, and to keep my statutes and my judgments, as did David his father. Howbeit I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand, but I will make him prince all the days of his life for David my servant's sake, whom I chose, because he kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes.
All right. So, long story short, here we see the dividing of the tribes. That the Most High said that the whole kingdom was going to be rent out of Solomon's hands. 10 tribes was going to be separated. Solomon was only going to be over the 2 tribes, which is Judah and Benjamin. Okay. The other 10 was going to be ruled as part of the northern kingdom. All right. So Rehoboam took over as the southern kingdom king. Jeroboam took over as the northern kingdom king. Okay. So that's just that understanding what happened with the splitting of the kingdom. Now go to second Kings, and let's go to chapter 17 and read 1 down to 5.
2 Kings chapter 17, verse 1. In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, began Hoshea the son of Elah to reign in Samaria over Israel 9 years. He did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, but not as the kings of Israel that were before him. Against him came up Shalmaneser king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his servant, and gave him presents. And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, for he had sent to messengers to So king of Egypt, and brought no present to the king of Assyria, as he had done year by year. Therefore the king of Assyria shut him up, and bound him in prison. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land, and went up to Samaria, and besieged it 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea the king of Assyria took Samaria, and carried Israel away into Assyria, and placed them in Halah, and in Habor by the river Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes.
All right. So in this year, ninth year, Hosea the king uh was put into bondage under Shalmaneser. This was in 722 BC. Okay. So this is when the 10 tribes went into bondage into captivity because of the evils that the 10 tribes have been committing. If you read all the history in the kings, there was no righteous king within the 10 tribes, the northern kingdom. None. All of them was wicked. So the Most High had enough under Hosea. They went into bondage, went into captivity. Let's jump over to 2nd Ezra 13 now. 2nd Ezra 13. And we're going to read, let's see, where do I want to start? Uh, let's start at let's read verse 36 and we'll read down.
The book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 13, verse 36. And Sion shall come, and shall be showed to all men, being prepared and builded like as thou sawest the hill graven without hands. And this my son shall rebuke the wicked inventions of those nations, which for their wicked life are fallen into the tempest, and shall lay before them their evil thoughts, and the torments wherewith they shall begin to be tormented, which are like unto a flame. And he shall destroy them without labor by the law which is like unto fire. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes,
Now hold
which
on. So hold on. So here we're seeing there's going to be a judgment that happens. It says, an innumerable multitude shall be gathered together as thou sawest them willing to come and to overcome him by fighting. So we're going to see the end of time judgment happening. It said the Son of the Most High is going to be declared. All the people is going to hear his voice. Every man shall in their own land lead the battle they have one against another. Right? It said that innumerable multitudes going to be gathered together that thou sawest willing to come and to overcome him by fighting. So even in Revelation 12, Revelation 17, 16, I believe, all talk about the nations trying to rise up against Yahweh Shai and the angels, right? Now it says, but he shall stand upon the top of Mount Zion, in verse 35, and Zion shall come and shall be showed to all men. So there's going to be a revealing of the tribes of Israel again. All of Israel is going to be back gathered together. This is Ezekiel 37 with the valley of the dry bones and Israel coming together. Romans 11, right? It ain't talking about the rest of the heathen being grafted in. No, two sticks that's coming together is the northern and the southern kingdom back together as one nation. And Zion shall come and shall be shown to all men, being prepared and builded. That's Ezekiel 37, like as thou sawest the hill graven without hands. So this is why our people are actually even seeing what's being, labeled a great awakening of the children of Israel, man. Our people are waking up in droves. This is why we see so much hype and so much surrounding around the Kyrie and the Ye situation. This is why when you see Hebrew Israelite as a hashtag, the views of a video is so stupendous because everybody's looking and trying to find out what's up with these Israelites. Is it true? Is what they're saying right? You even got Christians that are out here saying, "Oh yeah, yeah, we're the children of Israel," but the rest of the nation, they would still want to compromise. They still want to open up the door for everybody else. They don't want to follow the strict rules and regulations as far as what the Most High said it uh, pertains to salvation and so forth and so on. Right? Even the damn GMO small hat community, they're even bowing down, saying, "Well, you know what? We're not saying, yeah, of course there were black Jews. But they try to cover it up and say because of their scattering and them intermingling with the nations, this is how the black Jew get out of here." I've heard that before. You know, some of them will say, "Yeah, well, the 10 tribes, we know they some of them went in." They have to concede. They weren't willing to give it all up, but they are going to concede a little bit here or there. Why? Because now, as we just got through reading, Zion is going to come and is going to be shown to all men. It's going to be undeniable who the children of the Lord are, the chosen seed, the 12 tribes, coming back to reclaim the throne under Hamashiach Yahweh. It says being prepared and builded. So now we're being prepared. We're going through the preparations of learning to repent, keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, building ourselves up in righteousness and in faith, keeping the commandments in the faith of Mashiach Yahweh, as it says in Revelation 14 and 12. Read verse 37 again.
Verse 37. And this my son shall rebuke the wicked inventions of those nations, which their wicked life are fallen into the tempest.
See, even Yahweh in Revelation 19:11, he said he's going to come and in righteousness he's going to make war. So he's going to rebuke the wicked inventions of the nations, which the wicked life are fallen into a tempest. They're out of control with all wickedness and their inventions. Retribution is coming, right? 38, go ahead.
And shall lay before them their evil thoughts, and torments wherewith they shall begin to be tormented, which are like unto a flame. And he shall destroy them without labor by the law which is like unto fire.
So it said that he's going to lay before them their evil thoughts and the torments therewith. They're going to the wicked are going to recognize, and from the heathen on down to the 2/3 of our people, all their wicked thoughts and torment is going to be tormenting them. It's all going to come back to them in a flash. He said he's going to lay before them their evil thoughts and torments, wherewith they shall begin to be tormented. All the evil, all the wickedness. I thought I could eat pork. I thought I could be a sodomite. I thought I could wear what I want to wear. I thought I could intermarry. I thought I could do all it. It's going to torture them because they're going to hear all of them times that they, cussed us out in their head or cussed us out publicly or turned it down and called us a cult. All that's going to be kept flashing back in front of tormenting them saying, "I told you so. I told you so. You should have listened. You should have repented." which are like unto a flame, and he shall destroy them without labor by the law which is like unto me. Read on.
And whereas thou savest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes,
So now it's getting into the future understanding regarding the gathering of the 10 tribes. How is all this going to come together? Who's that mystery people? Another mysterious, peaceable multitude. Who was that? Who's been missing all this time reading up until this particular point? Right? There's going to be a gathering and a preparedness and a building up of the 10 tribes as well. So it's making the declaration that these are the 10 tribes who also are going to be gathered as a multitude unto Yahweh. These are the 10 tribes. Go ahead.
which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Osea the king, whom Salmanassar the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land.
So they went over waters into another land. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I'm. Let me see if I can share this with y'all. Uh, well, let me look at this other one. Hold on. Where's my other map at? All right. So people got carried over the water. So here's the Euphrates. Here's the Tigris River. They got carried over the waters into these lands right here. Nineveh, right? Modern day Iraq. All this area is where our people was at. Go ahead.
But they took counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country, where never mankind dwelt.
Now remember, didn't the Most High say that all the times that He delivered them? Remember in Psalms 106, it said that He delivered. He heard the prayers and delivered them. He said, but because of their counsels, the Most High said He's gonna continually go into bondage. Let me read that one more time because I don't want to misquote that. It says, many times that He delivered them, but they provoked Him with their counsel and were brought low for their iniquity. Read that again in Second Ezra.
But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen, and go forth into a further country, where never mankind dwelt.
Isn't that typical of Israel, man? And a lot of people do that. Maybe the heathen community too. But a lot of times when things ain't going right or whatever, and you want to reset, you move. I'm gonna move to this state. I'm moving out of the country. I'm moving to another city. I need to start over somewhere. That's the mentality that our people had. So once they were released out of bondage, they said, "Okay, well, we're gonna move. We're gonna get up out of here. We got to get a fresh, clean start. We're going to a whole nother land." Read on. It said, "What? Go
That
ahead."
that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river.
So here they are saying that okay, they got removed, but all of a sudden now they're going to be able to keep the land. I mean, keep the laws in the land in which they would never keep it in their own land. Does that make sense? They wasn't able to keep it in the Holy Land, but all of a sudden they're going to be able to keep it in the strange land where never mankind dwelt. That ain't what's happening. Our people playing mind games with themselves. Yeah, I couldn't keep it over here, but I'm sure I'll be able to keep it in this land where never mankind dwelt. We'll be good over there. So here we're seeing like a route taken. Once they leave up out of the land, they had to take the Euphrates down. Continue on, going into the Persian Gulf, and then they went down into the Indian Ocean, or what's known as the Arabian Ocean. So they came on down through the river passages and came then into the Gulf and went out. Go ahead.
For the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over.
So the Most
For,
High is led them and guided them out of here. Okay, read.
for through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth.
Arsarif, right? So let's look at that. Ours without the Jewish encyclopedia, right? The name of the land beyond the great river, talking about the great river Euphrates, far away from the habitation of man, in which the 10 tribes will dwell, observing the laws of Moses until the time of restoration, according to fourth Ezra, the 13th chapter. It's second Ezra because there are four. Well, yeah, I guess they're saying four because of the books and uh, the rest of the King James. But anyway, it's second Ezra 13 and 45. It says Columbus identified America with this land. C. Caselins, Christopher Columbus, translated by Dr. C. Gross. All right. So America would be that land known as Arsareth, whenever mankind dwelt. It wasn't that mankind had never been here before. Let's go to First Kings. Hold second Ezra. First Kings chapter 10. I think that's what I want. Chapter 10. Let me see. It's not that mankind never been here before, because you got people that would backdate the Olmec heads and backdate some of the visitations from um, the children of Ham or whatnot. Yeah, that's all valid, and that's scriptural, because here in First Kings, let's read uh 9, and let's read 26 down to 28.
First Kings chapter 9 verse 26. And King Solomon made a navy of ships in Ezion Geber, which is beside Elah, on the shore of the Red Sea, in the land of Edom. And Hiram sent in the navy his servant shipmen that had knowledge of the sea, with the servants of Solomon. And they came to Ophir, and fetched from thence gold, 420 talents, and brought it to King Solomon.
So Hiram, who was the head of the navy um for Solomon, headed out with these ships. Right now, let me look at this real quick, because I want to jump over to chapter 5 and verse 1. 5 and 1. Let's read that real quick.
First Kings chapter 5 verse 1. And Hiram king of Tyre sent his servants unto Solomon, for he had heard that had anointed him king in the room of his father, for Hiram was ever a lover of David.
So Hiram was Tyre, from Tyre and Zidon. So he was a Canaanite. All right. So he was under tribute because of his love for David. He was under tribute following after Solomon as well. Okay. So when he had the navy of ships, Hiram, who had knowledge of the seas, and he was set up over his navy, would go out to go get victuals and to go get the precious things for Solomon. Jump over to chapter 10, and I want to just get right to the point. Chapter 10 and read verse 22.
First Kings chapter 10 verse 22. For the king had at sea a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Hiram. Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory and apes and peacocks. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth for riches and for wisdom.
So
And
you see here where, remember, it told you that the children of Israel, it was going to take them, namely, 3 years in Ezra, right, to get to Arsareth. Now, here we see, I mean, a year and a half it was going to take them, Salaki. It's going to take them a year and a half in verse 45. Let's go back over there, because now we're seeing Hiram and his navy of ships were traveling, going through. Once every 3 years, they would come and bring back gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks. They would bring back all of these rare commodities back to Solomon after they made a year and a half travels, going through different lands, and it would take them 3 years. So a year and a half to get to America, where they also talked about the gold of Ophir, America was precious in gold and minerals. That's why Christopher Columbus and Ponce de Leon and all of them came over here because they heard about the gold that was over here and the treasure cities that was over here. So why? A year and a half they come over, a year and a half to get back. That's 3 years. That's why I said that it took Hiram 3 years to go back and forth, right? So now, second Ezra, read verse 45 again.
Verse 45. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth.
Go ahead.
Then dwelt there unto the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come,
So there they dwelt until the latter times, meaning until the end of times or later times, and this is where they were going to be coming to. All right, so this is where we're seeing the 10 tribes and how they ended up here in America. This is just a light overview, just trying to get through some of these things, just to make sure that our people understand and know scripturally where we're coming from and what the scriptures is dictating the 10 tribes and the plight that the 10 tribes went through. Now let's get to oh man, I got a lot to get to. All right, let's just get to the PowerPoint. Let's get to some of the things. I know some of y'all been clamoring, waiting to see some of the stuff. All right, so let's. I'm gonna get to some other scriptures later, Lord willing, Lord permit. All right, y'all can see all of these. That's just the beginning. All right, am I sharing? Hold on. No, I'm not sharing. Okay, let me go down here. Okay. All right, so first book we're gonna look at, and I had this book. It got when my backpack got stole. I had to re up on everything. I haven't got a chance to get another copy of it yet, but I did fortunately find it online. So you can find this online, but it's called The Islands, the Worlds of the Puerto Rican. So we're gonna travel as much as we can with the time allotted. We're gonna go through Puerto Rico. We're gonna go through South America, Central America, the island of Hispaniola. We're talking just the Dominican Republic, and we're talking the Caribbean, America. We're gonna touch as much as we can in regards to the coming of the 10 tribes. Right here, the Arsaris in the land where never mankind dwelt. So now they were going to make this their dwelling, not a place of visitation, but a dwelling. So let's look at this about the islands. All right, the islands, the worlds of Puerto Rico by Stan Steiner. Okay, this is on page. I forgot which page. I think it's on page 1. It's in the introductory. I think it's in chapter 1 though. Salaki for not putting that down, but it's in there. All right, this is the chapter, the lost tribes of the Boricans. This is one thing that I want to, highlight. In the mornings, this is the observations that they seen from the conquistadors, from the Jesuits and the priests that they were having accompanying them on these conquering trips. These are all firsthand eyewitness accounts that were documented in showing the customs and the ways of these encounters that they were having with these indigenous tribes. All right, so these are primary sources of what people witnessed and saw. All right. Before we go there, Second Ezra 3:36. Let's read that. Second Ezra 3:36. Actually, it reads 32 down to 36, and then we'll get to it.
2nd Ezra chapter 3 verse 32. Or is there any other people that knoweth thee beside Israel? Or what generation hath so believed thy covenants as Jacob? And yet their reward appeareth not, and their labor hath no fruit. For I have gone here and there through the heathen, and I see that they flow in wealth, and think not upon thy commandments.
So Ezra's going through all the heathen. He's observing. He's seeing what everybody's going through. He said, "I'm checking these heathen out, man. They living in wealth, and they ain't thinking about the Most High's commandments." Read on.
Weigh thou therefore our wickedness now in the balance, and theirs also that dwell in the world, and so shall thy name nowhere be found but in Israel.
So it said, "You're gonna weigh our wickedness in the balance." And theirs, he said, "You're only gonna find your name being worshipped in Israel." Read on.
Or when was it it that they which dwell upon the earth have not sinned in thy sight, or what people have so kept thy commandments. Thou shalt find that Israel by name hath kept thy precepts, but not the heathen.
Israel by name have kept thy commandments, but not the heathen. That's the caveat. That's the thing that separates us from the rest. The Lord said Israel by name is going to be adapting to the commandments of the Lord. It's going to be in us. It's already going to be in our spirit to keep the laws of the Most High, whether we know it or not. That's what Romans 2 is about. It tells you about that some keep the commandments um, just by nature, and others by schooling and learning. And he was speaking about the Gentiles of Israel, that is, not anybody. All right, Romans 2. And then you also got Romans 8 and 16 would tell you about that the Spirit bears witness that we're the children of the Most High. So everything that we got to observe is we're looking at it through the Spirit, we're looking at it through custom, we're looking at it through physical depictions, we're looking at the actual physically keeping of the commandments. These are all traceable things that we're trying to connect with identifying who these people are. All right. So, and Adonai, you're right. It's gonna have to be a part two. I mean, there's no way. I mean, might have to do three parts. There's no way I'm gonna get through all of this. But bear with me, y'all. We're gonna have to do. We'll double back and do some more because I'm not even a quarter of the way through. So reading this, okay, the islands, the worlds of the Puerto Ricans, by Stan Steiner. This is the observation that they made, right? This is from the some of the conquistadors. It says, in the mornings they washed themselves. They washed every morning. They were very clean, said the man from the mountains. He spoke of the dead Indians and who the 16th century had bathed in the river. Now, one thing I want to bring out, read that in Exodus 40, 30 through 32, is about the cleanliness and the customs of washings that our people remembered was part of our customary ways, right? The Christians say cleanliness is next to godliness, right? But our people knew and understood that ceremonial washings and the cleansing of ourselves was what? Number one, symbolic of us being washed clean from our sins. That's Isaiah 1 and 16. You can write that one down, of one of many, right? But let's just read this in Exodus 40, read 30 through 32.
Exodus chapter 40, verse 30. And he sent the laver between the tent of the congregation and the altar, and put water there to wash withal. And Moses and Aaron and his sons washed their hands and their feet thereat, when they went into the tent of the congregation, and when they came near unto the altar, they washed, as the Lord commanded Moses.
So this is ceremonially the priests always wash themselves before conducting the works of the Lord or being amongst their people. So it was always customary for our people to wash. They always want to put out these depictions of our people being savage and untamed and uncivilized and barely scratching their head and under their underarms and running around here. No, our people was civilized, man, and our people was washing, bathing, taking care of themselves, cleanly hygiene, far from what they try to depict our people as looking like and acting like. And this is all according to what they delve and knew in the spirit was the right thing to do. All right. Reading down, it says the Indians had named the island Borican. When the Spaniards came, they mispronounced the name. Typical of it. The Spaniards coming over here mispronouncing the name. They've got very multiple different translations on the ways that it's said. But reading down here, it says, according to the storyteller, the real name of the island was none of these, but was Tierra del Valiente Señor, the land of the valiant Lord. The land of the valiant Lord. They named their island after Yahweh Shai. You know, that was just something that was in our people anyway. Read that in First Chronicles 5 and 18. Just off of the spirit that the Lord put upon our people. First Chronicles 5 and 18. We know that the Lord is going to fight valiantly for his people. Revelation 19 and 11, he said he's going to come down in righteousness. He done judge and make war, right? When he said he's going to come back and he's going to vengeance is the Lord's in Romans. So all of these things our people knew. Land of the valiant Lord is really what the name of Puerto Rico was. Tierra del Valiente Señor. Shalakia for my broken Spanish, but I'm trying. Go ahead and read that. First Chronicles 5:18.
First Chronicles chapter 5 verse 18. The sons of Reuben and the Gadites and half the tribe of Manasseh of valiant men, men able to bear buckler and sword, and to shoot with bow and skillful in war, were 40,703 that went out to the war.
So we're seeing just the character and the nature and the ferocity that the Most High placed and the spirit that He placed upon our men. He said these were men that were valiant in war. Well, where did they get that spirit from? Exodus 15:3. Where did they get that spirit from? Exodus 15:3. Let me write those down in the chat, Shalaki. First Chronicles. Oh, no, no, no. Let's do Exodus 40 first. Exodus 40. 30 to 32. Button read, Rara.
The book of Exodus chapter 15 verse 3. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name.
So we see that. That is the name and the characteristics of our Lord. It said that He's a man of war. So when we read about valiant men of war, these particular tribes, who would say Reuben, Manasseh, and who else? Am I missing one other one? I know it said three of them. Let me read it. Reuben, the Gadites, and half of the tribe of Manasseh said that all valiant men of war, men able to bear buckler and sword and shoot with bow. What was one of the favorite tools of weaponry that you see the Native Americans and the indigenous tribes using in South and Central America? I'm not trying to point and say these are the Reubenites, these are the Gadites, but we see that these particular tribes had a knack for these particular weapons, this particular spirit. Fierce, valiant warriors, right? So the true name of Puerto Rico is Land of the Valiant Lord. Regardless how the fumbling Castilian speaking, Spanish speaking white men came over here and tried to butcher the names, they had a true understanding what their name was. Okay. Let's read on from another portion of the book. It says, on the riverbank was the birha tree. He picked a handful of its berries. The small red seeds were once used by the Indians to make a dye with which they painted their skins. Not for decoration, the storyteller said, but as an insecticide. Let's go to Sirach 38. So our people had knowledge of what? Agriculture, medicines. They knew how to deal with insecticides or creating natural insecticides coming from this tree, the Biha tree. And it said that they were red seeds that they would rub on their skin, red dye. This is where the so-called white man, depending on the particular tribes, where they got calling them red men. It wasn't their true skin color. It was because they had insecticides on them. That's how stupid he is. He didn't know nothing about that. Go ahead and read that Sirach 38 and 1.
The book of Ecclesiasticus chapter 38 verse 1. Honor a physician with the honor due unto him for the uses which ye may have of him, for the Lord hath created him.
Drop down reverse 4, Salaki.
Verse 4. The Lord hath created medicines out of the earth, and he that is wise will not abhor them.
So who you think they got that understanding from? Who you think the Most High funneled that knowledge into their spirit to help them understand and know how and what berries to pick and what medicinal properties that they would have? That's only from the Spirit of the Lord guiding and teaching them what to do. That's how that happened. Go to Isaiah 28. Let me get a precept for that. Isaiah 28 and I want to read. Let me see. Isaiah 28. Is that it? Hold on. 28, read verse 26.
The book of Isaiah chapter 28 verse 26. For his God doth instruct him to discretion, and doth teach him. For the fitches are not threshed with a threshing instrument,
That's all I
neither.
needed. All I needed was 26. It said, "For the Most High doth instruct him to discretion and doth teach him." That's how they was able to sustain and understand and know how to use these medicinal properties, is because the Most High was teaching them through the Spirit and telling them what they needed to do. You know, if any of you been out into the tropics, if you've been out into the woods where there's areas where you know them bugs and mosquitoes and all that is tearing people up, down in the Amazon and all these other places, and you got to sit back and wonder, say, how do people survive here? You can't be out for 1 minute, you scratching and what? We be out in out in Pasadena sometime when in the summer when them damn mosquitoes coming out, man, we be scratching, getting bit like a mug. Our people was out there living amongst nature, dealing with this, and they had the insecticide. They knew how to keep them things off of it. Living and dwelling there, it wasn't running. Our people be out there with me included, out there spraying everything. Shh. But they had it understood. Why? Because the Most High instructed them, taught them. Let's go back over here. Now check this out. But it shows you not only the intelligence that our people was moving and operating in, how the Lord was guiding them and teaching them, how they was utilizing the medicines from the earth, right? And how Esau is sitting back talking about them being the red man. No, it's because they were utilizing medicines to keep them shielded from bugs and insecticides, and they had no idea about it. But look at this. It says, you see, he triumphantly said, how red it is. It made our ancestors look redder than they were. Imagine that. Now, this is from one of the guides that was going out showing, these conquistadors or whatnot, what was happening with the customary ways that with the Boricua Indians. Now, it said that how red it is, it made our ancestors look redder than they were. So clearly they were acknowledging who Esau was. They know who the red man was, the Spaniards. So obviously you can write down that precept, Genesis 25, because they recognized it, said that the red insecticide from the beehive tree made them redder than the Edomite. It says, so the Spaniards thought our people were red skinned. See that? La gente colorada, they called them. But actually the Indians were like us. They were light skinned. How do you say he searched for the word? They were light bronze. Light bronze. Not white, a light brown. So we know that from Adam, different shades of brown, right? Children of Israel is like a speckled bird. So this is what they encountered. They said no, they wasn't red. They were actually light brown. They were light skinned Jakes. You know what I'm saying? But Esau put out that fallacy that they were red men, red skin. No, he put that out there to try to hide himself. And they said, no, you redder than us. Let's continue on. Here's another excerpt out of the book, page 13. On the banks of the Rio Grande de Loaiza, the Spaniards discovered gold. See that? That's what they were looking for. The treasure ship. They wanted that gold. In a joyous frenzy, they forced the startled Indians to work in the placer and underground mines they established. So here they are enslaving the Indians, throwing them in the mines to work to pillage out the gold. By 1510, a smelter had been built, which on its first day refined 100,000 pesos worth of gold. Ponce de Leon, who had become, remember, they always fantasize him. Oh, he was searching for the fountain of youth. No, he was searching for gold. He was enslaving our people, killing and murdering and all of that. Searching for the fountain of youth. Ponce de Leon, who had become the first governor of the island, celebrated by building a villa of stone, sending for his family, and changing the name of his settlement from Caparra to Puerto Rico, the rich port. So, give me that in Psalms. Now, it's not after his own name, but we just see here, I think it's Psalms 49 and 11. Let me make sure. I want to send you on a wild goose chase. Yeah, 49 and 11. Read that. So we see that Puerto Rico was named after Ponce de Leon. He called it the rich port. So not only did they land of the Boricuans, they butchered that. They didn't keep the name of it being the land of the valiant Lord, which we should have had in translated Spanish earlier that we just read. Then he came over and named the island. So again, here we have a people who are calling themselves Puerto Ricans, but are they descendants of Ponce de Leon? Are they the people of the rich port? I mean, where do you find your nationality hidden within this land? That's why you can't determine your name or your people after a landmass. You can't say I'm Puerto Rican. That just means rich port. Thanks to Ponce de Leon. Read that Psalms 49 and 11.
The book of Psalm, chapter 49, verse 11. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names.
So he made it his own, not necessarily his particular name, but he called the name after whatever he wanted to name it. After his own name. Whatever he wanted to name it is what he named it. Right. And it said they trying to pass it down to his family. What did he do? He sent for his family to go live over there. He was the first governor. All right. So I'm gonna just tap into that. There's a lot more in that book, but I just got a couple pages out of there just to kind of show regarding them. So it showed customarily they were accustomed to the washings. They recognized that Esau was the red man, where the name came from, and the characteristic of the land came from the spirit that the Most High put in them as being valiant men and valiant warriors, and they had knowledge of the herbs. Let's read another part, page 14. It says the revolt of the Indians failed. So, we always talk about the different revolts, the Haitian revolt, the civil rights movements, and those particular revolts. We want to talk about, the Native American revolts and the fights against the so-called white man. We're still talking in 1511, 1512, that there was revolts going on in these islands. Our people was trying to fight back. We was winning a couple of these battles too. But at the same time, at the end all be all, they were getting put into bondage and into captivity because of their disobedience. Remember, again, flashback to Psalms 106, where the Most High said that he would hear and give favor, but our counsels turned him away again. So, reading this, it says the revolt of the Indians failed, yet it was not a failure. Within a few days, the Indians had killed, quote, more than half of the Spaniards. So, again, when you see the valiant nature and how our people was fighting, going up against these Spaniards who had armor, musket guns, they had swords, they had spears, they had shields, they had much more highly sophisticated weaponry than our people had. But our people were still giving them hell. Killed more than half the Spaniards on the island, led by the uh, caciques, which is like the leaders, Guaran- Guarone, Yoroyan, and Agua Aguaye Bana, the brave. Uh, It says they burned not only the town of Sotomayor, but other settlements. The mines were halted. The battle reports of the conquistadors boasted of no more than a few hundred dead Indians. Most had safely escaped. Right? And we'll read down here. It says in 1511, the revolt began. In 1512, the Council of Catholic Bishops, keep that in mind, Catholic bishops, this is who the culprits are, met in extraordinary session to reconsider the rights of the Indians. Not long after that, in 1521, the King of Spain, Emperor Charles V, issued his famous decree freeing all Indian slaves in the Indies. So, were they over here living their best life? Do these curses in regards to Deuteronomy 28 fall under the Northern Kingdom as well? Yes. The Indians were in captivity. They were in slavery. Did they hop on them slave ships? Absolutely, they did. Going back to Spain, going back to Portugal. Some even went back to Great Britain. Let's drop down. For time's sake, I'm just going to read through some of these. We'll have to cover the curses on the back end. But most of y'all should know and understand where some of these curses will fall into play. The Indian population of the island disappeared as a cultural group in the first century of the Spanish conquest. He said, and he mourned the death of the Botequeños. Disease from Europe and Africa caused epidemics that killed thousands of Indians. The mines killed thousands more. When the king granted freedom to the Indians in the 16th century, the Bishop of Puerto Rico could only find 60 alive. Did you hear that? That's why when we read in Revelation 11 and 8, It said, and their dead bodies shall lie in the streets of the great city. We're talking about massive deaths of our people. So when brothers throw out numbers, oh, 5 million here, 10,000 here, 60 million here, those aren't exaggerations. Collectively, when you pile up all the bodies and all the numbers, those numbers are reality, man. They said from not only from war, but they tried to, disease from Europe and Africa causing epidemics. No, it's from Europe. Don't talk about from Africa. Thousands of Indians, because they're gonna say, "Oh, well, when the Southern Kingdom came over here, they brought disease too." No, that's all from Esau. Europe, Africa, epidemics that killed thousands of Indians. The mines, all them slaving in the mines, digging out the gold. They were dying by the thousands in the mines as well. And then when Esau says, "Okay, let's give them their freedom," 100 years later, oh, it's too late. They only got 60 alive. That's what they, are quoting as saying what was left of the population. Massive death, man. Let's look at this. Another page. It says it has been estimated that 30 to 50,000 Borican Indians lived on the island when the conquistadors first came. So 30 to 50,000. This is the estimate, but they'll tell you later on that they can't even really make a count because they didn't start counting until the bodies was dropping. So it could have been even more than that living there. They didn't take it, as we'll see here. It says no one knew the exact number. There may have been 1/10 of that or 10 times that many, but not until the dead Indians became a statistic of moral guilt, debated in the church councils of the Vatican and Valladolid, did the Spanish try to count the living. Then it was too late. Give me that in Deuteronomy 28, and let's read. I think it's 64. And then you can also read Deuteronomy 28, and let's read 50. What is it? 52.
So you want me to start with 64 first?
Let's read 64. Let me make sure that's the one I want. Hold on. Is it 64? No. I want read 66.
Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 66. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shalt have none assurance of thy life.
So it said that life shall hang in doubt, and there'll be none assurances of our life. See how they didn't even make an accounting of their lives after all of the death that they did? They said, oh, well, let's count what's left. Oh, we must have estimated there had to be at least 30, 40 more thousands of them. No, that's their lives hanging in doubt, right? Not only that, but metaphorically, that can also be speaking about the actual lynchings of our people. Jump over to read verse 49 and 50.
Verse 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young.
That's right. So let's look at this. Uh, and I haven't even put in this presentation yet all of the aspects of this particular quote. So in this book, in the islands, they quoted from Bartolome de las Casas, who wrote Devastation of the Indies, which is a book regarding the Spanish Jesuit priests who went on the missions with the conquistadors throughout the Caribbean islands, South and Central America, and he documented and was writing all of the massacres, all of the things that he was witnessing going on. Now in this book they quoted him. I haven't even put all the stuff from that book in here. That's going to extend this damn near to 100 slides. But anyway, it says Father de las Casas witnessed the aftermath of the Indians' bloody slaughter by the Spaniards. So we just got to read that. He's not going to show favor to the old nor to the young, a nation of fierce countenance. He's going to have our lives hanging in doubt. Our people didn't know they were going to live or die day by day under these people, right? It says once the Indians were in the woods, the next step was to form squadrons to pursue them. They pitilessly slaughtered everyone like sheep in a corral. Why they make that analogy? The sheep, the lost sheep. Huh? Okay. It was the general rule of the Spaniards to be cruel, a nation of fierce countenance. Their general rule was to be cruel. Not just cruel, but extraordinarily cruel. That's why when you see Esau committing all these heinous acts and crimes, you're saying, damn, it wasn't, look, Jeffrey Dahmer. It wasn't enough just for you to kill people. You had to go and chop up the bodies and store them in refrigerators and eat them and, store them in vats of acid and sodomizing each other. And, Esau's into necromancy, man, laying with dead bodies. Man, it's not enough for him to just, kill, for the black, for brothers, man. They was chopping brothers' rods off, burning brothers alive, man, skinning them alive, tarring, feathering. That's what we were dealing with. A true demon. Not just cruel, but extraordinarily cruel. They would test their swords by slicing off heads and cutting bodies in half. They would sever an Indian man's hands and leave them dangling by the shred of skin, saying, "Go now, spread the news to your chiefs." This is also in page 21. Remember the earthly paradise. We read that in Hosea. It said they were going to be given a pleasant land, but they were going to be giving their children over to murderers. Right? Reading verse 2. I mean, verse 2. uh, chapter 2, page 21. It says, "But it was the gentle and friendly Indians who convinced the admiral by their behavior that he was nearing heaven. Were they not almost biblical in their innocence?" Did you hear that? By their observation, they said these people are biblical in their innocence and how they carried themselves, the moral nature in which they carried themselves. Leviticus 19, read 33 through 34. And I'm going to continue reading this. It says, near that he had them convinced. An admiral coming from the Spanish army had them convinced that he was in heaven. Cristobal Colon. Unbelievable. Had him convinced he was in heaven. Were they not almost biblical in innocence, giving, quote, all they have to strangers, offering great love towards all others in preference to themselves? Europeans did not behave like this. This was not the nature of Esau. Let's be clear. It says, nor were Spaniards that Christian. Even though they're coming over there in the name of the Catholic Church, it said the Spaniards was nowhere near Christian-like, neither were the Edomite Europeans. But our people bear the Spirit. Right? Read that Leviticus 19, 33 to 34.
Leviticus chapter 19, verse 33. And if a stranger sojourn with thee in your land, ye shall not vex him. But the stranger that dwelleth with you shall be unto you as one born among you, and thou shalt love him as thyself, for ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God.
Now you see, our people remember that law in the spirit, but they didn't know how to apply it to the right people. They didn't realize the neighbors were their own. They can take that and entertaining these damn Spaniard conquistadors coming over here, slaughtering and raising hell on their island, and they saying, "Oh, let's be nice to them. Let's teach them everything we know. Let's give everything that we have." No, you're supposed to do that with your own people, not with them. So they misappropriated the law to a people who did not behave the same, was not going to reciprocate the same type of love, the same type of understanding of community. Neither were they Christian like or believers of the Most High like that, man. They was dealing with pure demons and devils, and here they are trying to entertain them and treat them like they was brothers. How far did that get them, man? Let's look at. You know what? I'm gonna skip this one. I'll read from this another time. But this is another good book. Lost Tribes and Promised Lands: The Origins of American Racism. This goes into a lot regarding the scattering. Uh, part two, we'll read from here. You see here, I got it. That's why I said I'm, I'm not gonna read from there. There's a lot to read from here. All right. This is another good book, Indians or Jews: An Introduction by Manasseh ben Israel, The Hope of Israel. This book right now probably like $300. Hard to find. I ain't gonna say it's hard to find. It's just expensive now. When you get real solid information, Esau's gonna make it hard to attain. But I'm gonna read just a couple of excerpts out of here, right? Verse page 68, and this also corroborates the understanding that the Mormons know who the 10 tribes are. They've got the records. They've got the information that connects to the sources, and they're holding on to it. They know that the 10 tribes of the northern kingdom and the indigenous tribes here are the children of Israel. Let's look at this. It says Israel brought into this new continent a considerable degree of civilization, and the better part of them long labored to maintain it. So remember, this is a place where mankind never dwelt. So now what do they have to do? They had to come over here and build and establish civilization. So it says Israel brought into this new continent a considerable degree of civilization, and the better part of them long labored to maintain it. But others fell into the hunting and consequently savage state, whose barbarous hordes invaded their more civilized brethren and eventually annihilated most of them and all of them northern regions. So it said that what ended up happening, they all came over, built up civilizations or whatnot. Then you had some who got envious. They turned into hunter gatherers or whatnot, started war. So again, infighting between the tribes is what ended up happening with the destruction, right? But here we go, Joseph Smith, man, the pedophile, founder of Mormonism. Why I say that? Because his first wife was 14 years old. He was a grown man. Joseph Smith, the false visionary, except for understanding and knowing who the 12 tribes are, the racists that said the black is evil. It's what the Mormons follow. Reading verse, I always say verse, page 69. Joseph Smith knew this legend, for he quoted it in his church newspaper in the later years as evidence of the historical accuracy of the Book of Mormon, although he was careful to cite Josiah Priestley's American Iniquities as a source, which had reprinted Ethan Smith's account in 1833, 3 years after the Book of Mormon was published. It may never be proved that Joseph Smith saw a view of the Hebrews before writing the Book of Mormon, but the striking parallelisms between the two books hardly leave a case for a mere coincidence. So they had two particular books that they were corroborating the story of understanding that the 10 lost tribes were connected to the um the Native Americans there, and you got the Utes, which were the indigenous tribes over there in Utah, and some of the other Native American tribes. They were putting it all together. They were, as you read down here, they were, utilizing Ezekiel 37 with the stick of Ephraim and the house of Joseph, all of that to make those comparisons. But let's read on. Now, in page 49, it says a reprinted edition of 1930, total 508 pages, all through which Adair, so he's quoting James Adair, who has a book called The History of the American Indians. I'll quote from that later. But this is part of the book that they were acknowledging is part of the proof facts that through these other visual and firsthand accounts that these explorers, that uh these priests and whatnot were all taking these visual accounts. These Christian Mormons was out here taking these particular accounts, observations of the people. So look at it. James Adair says pages 1 to 16 give Adair's version of the history of the North American Indians and observations of their descent. Pages 16 to 231 lists 23 arguments in proof of the American Indians. So yeah, that book is like 500 pages, and he's got arguments as to proving why they are, or points that could be made as arguments as to showing why and who they are, right? So they're quoting this. It says, in proof of the American Indians being descended from the Jews, they are their division into tribes. So they got that from Numbers chapter 1 and Numbers chapter 2. I think even into Numbers 3. When the settlements of the tribes came down, you had, three tribes on each side of the of the uh, of the altar. You had the division of the families and the tribes and whatnot. So that was all biblical in order and structure and how we was assembled. So they said, well, the Native Americans did the same thing. They divided themselves into tribes, their worship of Jehovah, the notions of theocracy, the belief in the ministration of angels, their language and dialects, their manner of counting time, the prophets and the high priests, their festivals, fasts, and religious rites, their daily sacrifice, their ablutions and anointings, their laws of uncleanness, their abstinence from unclean things, their marriage, their divorce and punishments. So, all of these things were compiled in this book, right, to show you all of the customary things that were akin to the ways of the Native Americans. So let's look at this on page 46 of the same book, Indians or Jews. For their origin, I'm ready to believe them of the Jewish race. I mean, of the stock of the 10 tribes, and that for the following reasons. First, they were to go to a land not planted or known. So here we go. This is more understanding that everybody knew these Edomites, these other historians that are documenting the same things that we're coming up with and understanding and knowing what happened to our people. So he's quoting about Second Ezra 13. It says, which to be sure, Asia and Africa were. So we know that these two particular continents were inhabited. So it couldn't have been them, if not Europe, and that intended the extraordinary judgment upon them might make the passage not uneasy to them, as it is not impossible in itself from the easternmost parts of Asia to the westernmost parts of America. In the next place, I find them of the like countenance, and their children of so lively a resemblance. So it said the countenance of what they look like and their children were so lively in resemblance that a man would think himself in Duke's Place or Berry Street in London when he seeth them. But this is not all. They agree in rites they reckon by moons. Huh? They offer their first fruits. What? They have a kind of feast of tabernacles. Huh? They are said to lay their altar upon 12 stones. Really? Their mourning, a year customs of women, with many things that they do now or do not now occur. So the 12 stones, isn't that didn't Moses do that when he set up the altar for the Most High in Exodus 24? He said he laid up the altar for the Most High, 12 stones after each tribe before he committed to the blood covenant. Uh, let me make sure I got that one down pat. Is that the one? Yeah. Exodus 24 and 4. You can write that one down. So we're seeing customarily the things that were similar. Let's jump over here, page 47. The legend getting further and further from the increasingly secular mainstream of European intellectual thought still came under fire. It was opposed by John Ogilvy in 1670 and Hubbard in his History of New England. This is a quote from the book. In any observation be made of their manners and dispositions, it's easier to say from what nation they did not than from whom they did. They derived their origin. Doubtless, their conjecture who fancy them to be descendants from the 10 tribes of Israelites hath the least show of reason of any other propinquity to them more than to any other of the tribes of the earth, either in their language or in manners. So they saying that doubtless, there's no doubt that uh, by the shows of what they've been proposing, they are more closer to any of the matching up of the 10 tribes than any other of the tribes of the earth in either language or manners. Um, Let me read from a different book. There's still a lot of time promise. Check this out. This is from um, Fair Use. Fair Use. Let me put that out there first. I'm using this under fair use for teaching and lecture purposes. Okay. This is from, I think it's from a PBS documentary out of Oregon. This is from the Modoc Indians. Modoc Indians out of Oregon, right? There was a documentary. Shout out to Brother Uziel. Sent this to me like a couple years back. But I'm going to let you hear from one of their elders a testimony of what he said. Let me turn this up.
They hold more than 700 caves. It has been a sacred site to the Modoc people from time immemorial.
To me, any step I take that here, I'm stepping on something that's spiritually sacred ground.
The Modocs knew this area as the land of burnt out fires. It was formed by volcanic eruptions that date back nearly 500,000 years. People have lived here for at least 11,000 years.
Now, you can hold on. You know where Esau and these dates. You got to watch him. He tried to throw in some confusion out there. We know the earth ain't even that old to be thrown in millions of years old and all of that. But listen to the testimony, though.
They hold more than 700 caves. been a sacred site to the Modoc people from time immemorial.
To me, any step I take down here, I'm stepping on something that's spiritually sacred ground.
The Modocs knew this area as the land of burnt out fires. It was formed by volcanic eruptions that date back nearly 500,000 years. People have lived here for at least 11,000 years. And the Modocs believe this land was created for them.
Our Creator told us that we would be small in number but mighty warriors. He put us here and he said, "You're my chosen people." So we know who we are. We're the chosen one.
You hear that? He said, "We know who we are. We're the chosen ones." And he said that came from them by the Most High. Told him that.
The mighty warriors. He put us here and he said, "You're my chosen people." So we know who we are. We're the chosen one.
A little tease to the heathen. He said, "We know who we are." So that's just one particular testimony, right? I want to cover this one. Yeah, let's look at this real quick. A letter from William Penn, the proprietor and governor of Pennsylvania in America, to the Committee of the Free Society of Traders. Let's look and see what their observations are. Okay. This is in section 12. It says their language is lofty yet narrow, but like the Hebrew. The language is like the Hebrew. This is coming from the governor of Pennsylvania and the Free Society of Traders and their dealings with the indigenous tribes in Pennsylvania. What did they observe? Their language is lofty yet narrow, but like the Hebrew, insignificant in signification full, like shorthand in writing. One word ferveth in the place of three, and the rest are supplied by the understanding of the hearer. Imperfect in their tongue, in their tense, wanting in their moods, participles, adverbs, conjunctions, and interjections. I made it in my. It's hard to read that old English. Busanels to I understand it, that I might not want an interpreter of any occasion. And I must say that I know not a language spoken in Europe that have words of more sweetness or greatness in accent or emphasis than theirs. But notice it said it's like the Hebrew. Let's move on. Let's continue on another page from the book, page 5. The natives I shall consider in their persons, language, manners, religion, and government with my fence of their original. For their persons, they are generally tall, straight, well built, and of singular proportion. They tread strong and clever, and mostly walk with a lofty chin. Of complexion, black. Oh, look at that. What does Solomon say? What did Yahweh Shai say? What Job say? What Jeremiah say? But by design, as the gypsies in England, they greet themselves with bear's fat clarified and using no defense against it, sun or weather, their skins must needs be swarthy. So it said they wasn't using anything to protect themselves from the sun or the weather. They had the melanin in the skin. Their skins must need be swarthy. Swarthy meaning black or dark. Their eyes a little in black, not unlike a look, straight looked Jew. The thick lip and the flat nose. For frequent to frequent with the East Indians and blacks and are not common to them. For I have seen as comely European like faces, them of both as on your side of the sea, and truly Italian complexion, not much more of the white, and the noses of several of them have as much of the Roman. So bottom line, they saying that the Indians that they encountered were dark skinned, they were swarthy, um, they they wasn't unlike the Jews in their looks, East Indians and blacks, so frequent, right? This is what they observed. They said it wasn't like the whites in the noses of several of them, like the Romans or an Italian complexion. Early history of the Creek Indians and their neighbors. Let's look at this. The Spaniards have visited several regions of vast country. They called Arambe, Guyacia, Quijate, Tanzaka, and Pahor. The color of the inhabitants is dark brown. So now we're getting more about the color of the people. Not red, not white, not these $5 Indians, not the ones that have been cross mixing and going off of a matriarchal line. Our people was different shades of brown. We just got to see in the Puerto Ricans was light bronze. Now you got some that's a little darker. You see some of the older depictions of our people. They was dark. I mean, look, you see all of the. Look at him, right? Look at them. It's the Algonquian tribe in New England. Look at them. You don't see these white faces and stuff that our people be, protecting. You see them at the damn powwows now. It's not the same. Not the same. All right. Let me get back over here. I'm gonna read a couple more excerpts and then I'm gonna close out. And we'll do a part 2 in the future. All right. So it says the color of the inhabitants is dark brown. None of them have any system of writing, but they preserve traditions of great antiquity in rhymes and chants. So they said that they preserve traditions through rhymes and chants. Well, what's the Psalms? Songs, you know, uh, uh, the Psalms are songs, right? Even in Wisdom of Solomon, in the last chapter, it says that is it Wisdom of Solomon? Let me see. Hold on. Yeah, I think it's in Wisdom of Solomon 19, but it's okay. But it made mention about the learning coming through harmonies and sounds, right? I'll read it real quick. Wisdom of Solomon 19 and 18. It says, matter of fact, let me pull it up for brothers and sisters real quick. Let's read verse 18. And he's talking about the learning of wisdom, right? It says, for the elements were changed in themselves by a kind of harmony, like as in the psaltery notes change the name of the tune, and yet are always sounds which may well be perceived by the sight of the things that have been done. So it's showing you how the learning and the manifestations can come through even learning through sounds, through tunes. That's why when our people, sometimes you might have to, it's like, you get most productive when you're hearing some music. I don't know a Jake that doesn't clean or do something vibing to some music. You learn in that way. Sometimes you might want to put a little soft tunes in the background while you're studying or you're reading. It sets like a certain tone in the spirit. Just like with Saul and David playing the harp. When Saul had that spirit on him and David played the harp and it calmed him down. The same type of spirit was passed along to our people. But it said even though they amongst these particular tribes, it said that they didn't write down anything, but they committed to themselves the traditions of great antiquity. Great antiquity. It means great ancient traditions through rhymes and chants. It says dancing and physical exercise are held in honor. Well, what did our people do when David, came back from war? It was all about dancing. All the time when we went out and had feasts, it was mirth, gladness, people dancing in joyous occasions. It says dancing and physical exercise are held in honor, and they are passionately fond of ball games in which they exhibit the greatest skill. Well, who else has the greatest skill in ball games? Football, basketball, soccer, tennis. Speaking about the Williams sisters and those other ones that's coming up, you know, let's come from our people. The women know how to spin and sew. Well, that's Proverbs 31. Although they are partially clothed with skins of wild beasts, they use cotton, such as the Milanese, called bombasio, and they make nets of the fiber of certain tough. Uh, great grasses, just as hemp and flax are used for the same purposes in Europe. So they already would, Esau already thinking, oh, they came up with all these great, inventions and whatnot. They using hemp and flax for nets. Our people was already using it, already doing the same thing with fibers and certain tough grasses, making nets over here. So they over there scratching their head like, wow, these people knew how to do this. We was doing that before they came over here. But that's just another observation, right? And that's from early history of the Creek Indians and their neighbors. So it's talking about the Creek Indians. The Creeks are, inhabiting and neighboring of Mississippi and Alabama and in those areas. Okay. Um, let's look at this part. It says, well, let's look at this part here. It says this is part of the custom. It says widows are forbidden to marry again if the husband has died of natural death. But if he has been executed, they may remarry. So they have a certain aspect of remarrying and marriage laws. That's not scriptural as far as if the man dies. She's able to remarry. It doesn't matter the cause of death. If he's deaf and she's a widow, she can remarry if she chooses to. But they had a specific, stipulation. Why? Because they held the honor of that man in high regard, right? If he died at war, defending the nation and defending the tribe or whatnot, then she was able to remarry. But if he died honorably and just natural cause, they told her she had to continue on being a widow. There was no justifiable reason for her to remarry somebody to carry on the name of her husband. But anyway, let's look at this. It says the natives like their women. It's talking about the Creek Indians. It says the natives like their women to be chaste. They detest immodesty and are careful to put aside suspicious women. So Proverbs 7 about, beware of a harlot and all that, they was hip to that. They wanted their women dressed in modesty. That's First Timothy, right? What's the second chapter? Are women dressed in dressed in modest and whatnot? Didn't it say they're supposed to dress in modest apparel? Well, they understood and said that same thing too. They like their women to be chaste, shamefaced. That's what the scriptures say. They detest immodesty and are careful to put aside suspicious women. The lords have the right to have two women, but the common people have only one. So they had a system of polygyny also. Um, let's read down. It says, their year is divided into 12 moons. Well, isn't that the same calendar that the Lord lined up? We operate off of a lunar solar calendar, but the moons are declared by the months. That's Sirach 43. The moon, the word month comes from the word moon, right? So they followed after the same particular calendar. Justice is administered by magistrates, criminals, and guilty being severely punished, especially thieves. So they had a system of judgment that was set up. Judges. Well, then we read that, and we have a whole book called Judges. Even in Numbers, when we were setting up the armies and whatnot, Most High told Moses, you got to set them up by officers of fives and tens and hundreds. Men of good reputation and good report to be judges over the people. Reading down, it says they love games, especially tennis. So who invented tennis? Oh, okay. They love games, especially tennis. They also like metal circles around with movable rings, which they spin on a table and they shoot arrows at the mark. So they were out here playing games of archery, accuracy with archery. But didn't we just get to reading that certain other tribes were valiant men that was skillful in bow? Okay. They used torches and oil made from different fruits and illumination at night. So they knew, again, the properties of different agricultures and what was flammable, what wasn't. You know what I'm saying? So they had plenty of understanding and knowledge about how to carry themselves and following out the biblical principles. Again, this is coming from the book Early History of the Creek Indians and Their Neighbors. Here's another one, page 45. Such are the verbal traditions handed down to them from their ancestors. They are regarded as sacred and considered authentic. True. Why? Because it came from the spirit and biblical principles. Whoever dared to believe differently would be ostracized. So if you broke the laws, you will be put away. You will be put, just like the Most High said, you'll be cut off from among your people. That's how they operated, right? That's how they operated. All right. So I got plenty more. But I'm gonna stop there. I know we said, hey, part two, Lord willing, we'll have to go ahead on and make that happen. But for time's sake, yeah, I'm gonna stop there. That's already almost 2 hours and 20 minutes or so. Yeah, we'll have to do part three, or part two, three, whatever. We'll come back. Lord willing, I'll get to it maybe the next time I teach. Next month. All right. Um. Yeah, and please, man. Yeah, you can't listen to the noise in the background. Those guys are way. Those guys are way out. All right. That's it for tonight, man. All praise, honor, glory to the Most High, White House, man. Always remember, fear the Most High, keep the commandments, man. If you did not wipe your feet on your way in, please do so. Please do so. Help us out. They trying to shut us down. They didn't shut me and the brothers up on the main page. So we over here hustling on the IQ channel. We got to keep it going though, y'all. So y'all enjoy the rest of the Sabbath is just about upon us, and the end of the Sabbath is upon us. Some of y'all is already over with, depending on where you at. But nonetheless, man, it's been a good one. If y'all want part two, man, let me know. I know I'm said yeah. Um, but I'm not gonna go through all of it if y'all don't need no more. If y'all got the picture, it's all good. But if you want part two, put something in the chat. Put a 7 in the chat so I know how to pre-plan my next engagement with the family. Do me that solid real quick. 7 in the chat if we doing part two and part three. 7 in the chat if we doing part two, part three. Let me know. I'm here to serve the people. Y'all let me know and we can go from there. So far it's kind of quiet. Oh, okay. I was about to say, okay, well, y'all got it. All right, so it's Shark, Koav, Monica, okay. That capped off with uh okay, my man Hosea, shalom to you, Ak. What's going on, brother? All right, well, there we have it. So we're gonna double back. We'll double back and we'll get more to 10 tribes indigenous findings. There's a lot more to go. A lot more to go, man. I promise y'all. Uh, we'll have to do part two, part three, man. We gotta do what we gotta do. Like I said, and that's just the tribes in the Caribbean, South Central America, and some of the Native American tribes. But I got a whole nother one just on like I said, the 5 civilized tribes that kind of expound on the separation that Esau tried to do between the other tribes and the quote unquote 5 civilized tribes. So we're gonna make that happen. All right, then cool. We'll double back and we'll continue on next go round, man. So maybe I'll retitle this part one and then we'll do part two next time, Lord willing. All right. So until then, y'all be well. Take care. See y'all in the near future. All praise, honor, glory to the Most High, Yahweh Shai. Shalom.